guys, this is your girl Wakeji Kamore and welcome to Reflections by Wakeji Kamore. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the time that you get to listen to this. Thank you so much for coming along with me on this journey where we are reading the Bible chapter by chapter. Today we are looking at Proverbs Chapter 20. I'm going to be reading this chapter word for word, and I'm going to be reading it from the easy to read version, which is the ERV version, one of my very favorite versions, because really it is easy to read. If you haven't read this chapter, please just pause this recording and read the chapter for yourself. I like to say that the Lord wants to meet us at the points where we are at. Whatever season you're in might not be the season that I am in. So whatever I pick might not be what you pick from this chapter. So read the chapter for yourself. Read the word for yourself. All right. I'm going to be sharing the lessons that I'm picking up from this chapter as I read verse by verse. So I'm not going to be sharing at the end of the recording, at the end of the reading. All right, so this is what it says. It says, wine and beer makes people lose control. They get loud and stumble around, and that is foolish. I'm actually going to also just read that from the ESV version. It says, wine is a mocker. Strong drink a brawler, and whoever is led astray by it is not wise. I like the fact that the Bible doesn't say don't drink, but it just says don't get drunk, because wine, beer, alcohol, let's just call it that. Alcohol mocks you. It really actually mocks you. It makes you lose control. It makes you get loud and stumble around, and that is foolish. So ni wewe utachagua, do you want to be foolish or do you want to be wise? It doesn't say don't take alcohol. It just says, do you want to be foolish or do you want to be wise? Chaguo ni lako. Verse 2 says, an angry king is like a roaring lion. If you make him angry, you could lose your life. People who refuse to argue deserve respect, because any fool can start an argument. The people who are just like, you know what, I'm going to just be aloof. I will not argue. I'm not going to get into disagreement and to arguments. Even when the disagreement and the arguments are starting up, they're just like, no, I refuse to argue. Those ones actually deserve respect. Verse 4 says, some people are too lazy to plant seeds. So at harvest time, they look for food and find nothing. That is just self-explanatory. If you don't want to work, sasa utatoa wapi chakula? There's as in, where are you going to get money for anything? Verse 5 says, getting information from someone can be like getting water from a deep well. If you are smart, you will draw it out. You might call many people your friends, but it is hard to find someone who can really be trusted. Self-explanatory. You can have many friends, but it is really difficult to find someone who can really be trusted. Verse 7 says, when people live good, honest lives, their children are blessed. Self-explanatory. When people live good, honest lives, their children are blessed. So do you want your children to be blessed? So sometimes I see people doing some things and I'm like, don't they love their children? As in, you can see someone has children and they're just bribing people, they're being injustice, and I'm just like, these people don't love their children, because all these things sharabarush they're doing out here is going to really affect their children. But people just think about today and they think about now. They don't think about their children's future. So it is good to live good, honest lives if you have children and you want those children to be blessed. Verse 8 says, when the king sits and judges people, he must look carefully to separate evil from the good. Verse 9 says, can anyone say their heart is pure? Who can say I am free from sin? And the answer to that is no one. Verse 10 says, the Lord hates for people to use the wrong weights and measures to cheat others. This, I think we've seen it in this Proverbs a couple of times, that the Lord actually hates, like people who lie with their weights and measurements, of people who do business in deceitful ways, people who are dishonest, people who are taking shortcuts. The Lord calls it an abomination. So if you want to be blessed, stay away from dishonest business dealings. Verse 11 says, even children show what they are like by the things they do. You can see if the actions are pure and right. So it means by your actions, you actually reveal who you are. Self-explanatory. It says even children. It's not just adults, like even children. You can actually be able to see, huyu ni mtoto wa aina gani, ama huyu ni mtoto amelelewa aina gani. because then they will be able to reveal that by their action. Same case with adults, same case with an adult. We can be able to see, you can be able to reveal the kind of person you are by your actions, whether they are pure and right. Verse 12, it was the Lord who gave us eyes for seeing and ears for hearing. I love that that's just there. Just a reminder that it is the Lord who gave us the eyes for seeing and ears for hearing. This can actually have a deeper meaning. We all see, sometimes we can be sitting in the same space and we're all seeing the same things, but there are people who are seeing opportunities more than others. Yet the Lord has given us the same eyes. Sisi wote tunaona, but sisi wote tunaona. Does that make sense? Like, there are people who actually see and hear more. They see opportunities, they hear advice, they hear counsel, they hear things that are not being said. Yet the Lord gave us all eyes and ears. I pray that I will be like the latter, who are able to see opportunities more than opportunities that present themselves like in places where probably other people can't see them. I pray that my eyes will be open enough to see where I need to pour my life into, that my eyes would be clear enough to be able to see where there's a need that I can meet. And I pray that my ears will be able to hear counsel. I pray that my ears will be able to hear insight and wisdom as I hear, that as I hear people speak to me, that I'll be able to even hear that which they're not saying and speak a word of encouragement to those. Verse 13, it says, if you love sleep, you will become poor. The way I love sleep. But I wake up early to work, guys. But if you love sleep, it means like if you are lazy, you will become poor. Use your time working and you will have plenty to eat. Verse 14 says, when buying something, people always say, it is not good. It costs too much. Then they go away and tell others of what a good deal they got. I was like, Allah, this is good information to know. And I'm like, thank you, Solomon, for letting me know this. That sometimes people will come to the workshop and they're bargaining for furniture and saying, oh, Emily, you're too expensive. Oh, you what, you're overpriced. Kumbe, they're just trying to get a good rate for the quality and the value that I'm giving, only for them to go there and say, hey, me, I got a really good deal. That furniture is really good and I got it at a good deal. Now I know. I'm like, akili mtu yangu. Najua tu huyu mtu anabagain tu, lakini anajua that the deal I'm giving them is actually good. All right, verse 15 says, the right knowledge can bring you gold, pearls, and other expensive things. The right knowledge can bring you gold, pearls, and other expensive things. Means that when you're knowledgeable, you can actually attain treasures from people. You can make more. Let's even just call it money. When you're knowledgeable, you can make more money. As a matter of fact, that's why we see like people who are employed like by government, like civil servants, they go back to school so then they can add a little bit more knowledge, so then their salaries can be increased. But also just generally, like when you are knowledgeable, you are more marketable. All right, verse 16 says, if someone promises to pay a debt of a stranger, get a coat or something from him to keep until the debt is paid. It may seem to be a good thing to get something by cheating, but in the end, it will be worth nothing. Scare to your sentence. It may seem to be good to get something by cheating, but in the end, it will be worth nothing. Get good advice when you make your plans. Before you start a war, find good advisors. I think that's a space I am in. Like, I have so many plans, I have so many things that I would want to do, but I've taken a lot of time to just sit under the counsel of people who've done these things before, so then they can just give me good advice and just good advice before I start doing the things that I need to do. Verse 19 says, you cannot trust someone who talks about things told in private. So don't be friends with someone who talks too much. You cannot trust someone who talks about things that they were told in private. So don't be friends with people who talk too much. There's a possibility that people who talk too much will be spewing people's secrets. And in the same way, if you tell them your secrets, they will go and spew it elsewhere. So you cannot trust them. Verse 20 says, those who would curse their father and mother are like a lamp that goes out in the darkness. If you curse your parents, you're just a lamp that is going to be snuffed in the darkness. Utazimwa tu. Verse 21 says, if your wealth If your wealth was easy to get, it will not be worth much to you. Self-explanatory. So money that comes easy, goes easy. Money that comes easy, it's not worth it. Don't ever say, I'll pay them back for what they did to me. Wait for the Lord. He will make things right. Revenge is not ours, guys. The revenge is for the Lord. The Lord hates for people to use the wrong weights to cheat others. It is wrong to use scales that are not accurate. This is probably the first time we are hearing this in this book of Proverbs. The Lord guides our steps, and we never know where He will lead us. Think carefully before you promise to give something to God. Later, you might wish you had not made that promise. At the time I did that, I made a promise to God that I would be paying what? Oh my goodness, that didn't end well. So it is very good to think carefully before you make a promise to God, because sometimes you're going to be like, why did I even make that promise? Verse 26 says, like a farmer who separates wheat from chaff, a wise king will decide who is wrong and crush them. Your spirit is like a lamp to the Lord. He is able to see into your deepest parts. I like that nothing is hidden from the Lord. 28 says, a king who is loyal and true will keep his power. Loyalty will keep his kingdom strong. We admire a young man for his strength, but we respect an old man for his gray hair. That's actually very great. That we actually, when we see, that's actually very true, because me, when I meet someone who has like white hair, I respect them just a little bit more. Either because, I don't know, in my head, I'm just like, they're older, they're wiser, you know what, so I just respect them. And verse 30 says that a beating can remove evil and make you completely clean. I just wanted to dive into this a little bit more. What does that mean? That a beating can remove evil. Then you kichapwa. Can remove evil and make you completely clean. This is what it means. That sometimes intense, painful discipline or severe consequences, not necessarily kuchapwa, twap, but sometimes just severe consequences from your own mistakes are necessary to break through your stubbornness and correct harmful behaviors and deeply reform a person's character. So when you're going through some severe consequences of mistakes that you made or poor decisions that you made, know that sometimes it is actually necessary to break through your stubbornness, especially if you are stubborn. So sometimes we make decisions, Liambua, don't do that. By many people you didn't hear, you are being stubborn. You went and did that very thing you're being told not to do. And so now you're struggling from serious, severe consequences. And that is necessary, because then it will break through your stubbornness. It will correct your harmful behaviors and deeply reform your character. So, for me, I think I would rather just take the insight and the correction, and I'd rather not take the correction. I'd rather take the advice before I make the bad decision. So that's my space. I would rather take the advice. I would rather take the insight, the counsel, instead of this beating, instead of these severe consequences. I would rather take the advice first. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. As a matter of fact, that is what I have picked up from this chapter. That is my main pick up from this chapter. That if I'm suffering severe consequences, it's probably because I was stubborn. Someone tried to tell me to not do something and I did it, and now it went bad on me. And for me, I would rather be taking the advice before I get to the place of severe consequences. Thank you so much for listening, guys, and see you tomorrow.